Good morning. Hope everyone's doing well. It's been a long time since I've posted a video, and really, it's been a while since I've been active on this account. So I wanted to share some things today with you. The first one being 312,570. That is the number of minutes since the last time I had a drink of alcohol. It was a decision I made. Luckily, I have the willpower and the decision to be able to make that choice. But it was a risk. It was something, after starting off the year, ending a relationship, catching COVID after 2 years and a couple international trips, finally caught me in February. And then also going through a kind of a professional transition at the time, and being in a really stressful position in life, personally and professionally. I went out and got tacos and some drinks with friends and woke up the next morning pretty miserably hungover, especially for the amount I had to drink, which, you know, not to try and quantify it because that's kind of arbitrary, but I didn't have a lot to drink, and I woke up just feeling miserable, feeling anxious, feeling tired, feeling hungover. And at that point, I realized it was time to make that choice. I had woken up hungover before for years. There in other parts of my life, alcohol was a social lubricant, but also, an escape, a way to numb feelings that I was having. And so I made that choice, not with any timeline in mind, and still really no timeline in mind. Uh, 7 months later, but this is the longest I have been sober, and I use the word sober because I'm not in any program, but yeah, not drinking alcohol since I was 17 years old. And with that, it didn't solve all my problems, so that's not what I'm here to share. But the rest of this year has been a challenge, actually, and that extra awareness has been really beneficial, but also really really hard to work through, um, especially without really a foundation of not having alcohol either as a social lubricant, coping mechanism, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, the rest of the year, kind of where I've been. And not sharing is the idea that I think a lot of us do a lot of research, or we do a lot of doing the work, but then when it comes to whether it's relationships, romantic relationships with family, friends, or professionally, putting the rubber to the road, so to speak, we do a lot of this research. We do a lot of reading. We take in a lot of information in our culture, but how often are we actually putting that to work? And I think that's something I struggle with. It's something that can be really scary. It can be really challenging to a way of life we've always kind of operated in, and so that was a risk to improve my awareness. But then also I had been reading a lot of books about improving the way I communicate with people, in improving my professional life. I know that's a priority of a lot of us, and especially after the pandemic, the way environments and work settings have changed and opportunities have changed. And as someone that came from working in culinary and kitchens for years to then to the business world, not too long before COVID really turned everything on its ear. Learning how to navigate that in a healthy way. I think there's a lot of archaic things in professional settings that we all just kind of go along with, and we don't push back on because that's not a comfortable place to come from, or maybe we don't have the awareness that is really impacting some of these other relationships in our lives. So that was kind of a long-winded explanation of this year. I was putting the rubber to the road. I lost some people close to me to death. I experienced a lot of loss and grief this summer. I also experienced a lot of joy and support from friends and from family, and starting to build or rekindle relationships with people I probably hadn't seen in a long time, and then also starting to look at what I want and need in a partner as well. And I think those are things that without without taking that perspective and making the choice to say I want more awareness, knowing that part of that risk is more pain and more raw emotion, but that's okay. That's really putting the rubber to the road. And so one of the books that I did read, some more research I did while I was doing that, is called Collective Illusions. And what this speaks to has really resonated with me. So, conformity and complicity and why we make bad decisions. And one of the things it touches on in these collective illusions is that they support social norms, and that supports our brain and cognitive capacity and function. Social norms are not inherently bad. It allows us to trust certain things will be a norm, setting a normal so that there's not always this extra level of chaos or expectation. But as a result of that, we've kind of started to dumb down our level of awareness, self awareness, personal awareness, how we engage and interact with others. And that's something I've seen, making a very positive shift professionally to a new role throughout the year. It was very challenging and uncertain amongst all the other things I was going through. But that's something where, even now, day to day, there's a lot of frustration and there's a lot of communication gaps. And I don't think that's unique to the organization I'm working with right now. Clearly, I came from an organization prior to that clearly had a lot of the same challenges. And so, part of the research too is you can have all of this knowledge, and as you start to grow this awareness, whether it's through studying the Enneagram or working with a therapist in different methodologies, or if you're aware of human design or the Gallup strengths, and starting to identify those things within yourself, that's great. But at a certain point, where's that threshold where you start to enact that in your daily life? And it can be very scary. Again, taking the choice to abstain from alcohol is something where I had to relearn how to operate in very familiar situations. So some of those social norms, whether it was being at a concert or being at a baseball game or being at a networking event, talking about what I do or trying to interview and see if I'm a good fit for that culture. That's where that extra awareness has come in. But just because you start to build that extra awareness, it doesn't come with a instruction manual on how to use that, whether it's tactic tactfully, excuse me, learning to communicate more directly with people, so that there is less frustration. Whether it's learning to listen and find the invitations to apply your skill set, or to step in and be able to support someone. These are the kinds of things where I had to put the rubber to the road and relearn how to do a lot of that in certain contexts, and without a crutch or the expectation of alcohol in my life whatsoever. And so again, not to preach sobriety holistically, or if you are working through a program, that's excellent. Taking that step and taking care of your mental and physical health is very, very important. But I think there's a lot of awareness as you grow to some of the things that are social norms, and maybe they're helping our cognitive ability, our ability to function in different communities or circumstances. But maybe they've just been that way for so long that they're due for a challenge. Maybe that conformity is not inherently healthy. And I think we're seeing a lot of that in our society shift. And that's something I've been thinking about lately as I've been putting it to action in my own personal and professional life. It's something I'm going to start posting more often about here and sharing more often about, and starting to develop some tools and some resources to help others do that. Again, I've worked with a business coach in the past. I've worked with therapists where they were able to really, kind of meet me where I was at and find things that would help me develop that awareness. And so some of that had laid dormant too for a while till I revisited, and it was like, all right, let's get this shit locked up and really kind of break it open, and let's get on a track where you want to pursue this and start to help others pursue it. And so, whether it's your personal life, professional life, engaging with family or a partner or coworkers, there's always going to be frustration there, and different levels of awareness. But as you can start to walk in that daily and start to embody that and put the rubber to the road, you're going to be able to start those conversations with others. If they start seeing you show up in a different way consistently, it's going to be uncomfortable at first. Another book I've recommended and kind of tried to champion in my own life is Essentialism. There's a lot of cool shit in the world, but we're in this habit as a culture of overcommitting and wanting to do all of it. And part of that comes from maybe our own expectations of what our capacity should be and what we want to experience. Some of that probably comes from outside, what others think of us. Where should we be at this point in my life? What should I be doing? What should my job be? You know, should I have a family? Should I be living here? And those are the sorts of things where we can get lost in that analysis paralysis, or we can start to build the awareness internally and then start to reflect it back to ourselves, and hopefully reflect it to others around us, so that we can build more fulfilling and fruitful relationships in any context. So thank you all for sticking with me if you made it this far, and cheers to everyone's week. Hopefully it's going well so far. I was gonna post this when I hit the 7 month mark again, just kind of using that as a milestone for myself, because I haven't made a drastic change like this since I was younger. And so I wanted to post earlier this week. One final thought though is there was another school shooting, just almost less than a mile down the street from my house earlier this week, and that it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy we continue to experience in this culture and in this country. And so sending, thoughts out to the families, and peace to the families of those that were injured and impacted by that. And that's another conversation. I hope that as we start to build awareness around what we want in our communities, we can start to have these actionable conversations, not just talking about when something tragic happens, what could we do, but what can we do? And let's start doing that. And that's something I want to start embodying in my own life as well. So just wanted to touch on that thought before I ended. And yeah, keep an eye out for more resources, more thoughts, more books. I have done a lot of research and a lot of putting rubber to the road, so I'm going to continue to share some of those stories from this year, and probably deeper in my past as well, to give some context there, and hopefully it resonates in some way if you're watching, or engaging with anything I post or share. So thank you so much, and yeah, have a great rest of your day.